Hey, Armand here with the scoop on Jupiter in Gemini 2024 to 2025. This is the way it goes. I'm going to give you an overview of Jupiter in Gemini, and then I'm going to give a little hint, a little clue, a little thought problem or thought exercise for each sign. That'll be timestamped below. And you can jump out and look at your ascendant sign or your sun sign or somebody else's sun or ascendant sign. I don't care. Listen to them all. You should listen to them all. And we'll give a little hint about what the next year might bring. Now, Jupiter is in Gemini from May 25th of 2024 all the way out until June 9th of 2025. It's going to be a pretty active time for Jupiter while he is in the sign. He's going to aspect Saturn in Pisces. That's the opening. So the first thing he's gonna do is to get a trine from Jupiter, from Pluto in Aquarius. Protect me. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's talk about Jupiter in Gemini by itself, though, before we get into that stuff. Now, Jupiter is considered to be a little unhappy in Gemini. It's not his favorite sign. But of the signs that Jupiter is not too happy in, I think that Gemini is the least problematic for him. I think that the expansive energy of Jupiter, all about the big picture, all about, the foreign travel, philosophy, religion, all of the big picture stuff, considered to be not so happy in the more quotidian sign of Gemini, more about our daily routines and things like that. Well, it may not be the place where he's the most comfortable, but I don't think it's so bad, really. I think that Jupiter in Gemini is very much the energy of the big picture coming into daily life, right? So let's say that if Jupiter has a certain sort of magic, that Sagittarian, spark, fiery kind of energy, and it's coming into Gemini. Let's look at this not as being something that's bad for Jupiter. Let's look at this as being the enchantment of everyday life. Let's look at this as taking some of that Jupiterian, I suppose you should say jovial, but let's call it Jupiterian magic and bringing it into the everyday. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So that's a positive thing. I think that when we look at, here's my model for Jupiter in Gemini, okay? It reminds me a bit of Lord of the Rings. Now, if you haven't read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, you should go read The Lord of the Rings. And the movies are fine. The movies are great. I'm sure you can get the analogy without having to read the books. We should read the books. Gandalf, a little bit like Jupiter, right? The wizard, he comes into the Shire. Now, the Shire, the hobbits and their little homeland and all that, very Gemini, very ordinary reality. Of all the things that are going on in Middle Earth, the Shire is like it's cozy, it's nice, it's comfy, it's very, they gossip about each other and they have little feuds and things like that, but nothing's really too serious. Very much a Gemini kind of place. And Gandalf being a wizard, this is very Jupiter kind of energy. Now, it's true, Gandalf, he goes all around Middle Earth. He talks to, the elven kings and, the people down in Gondor and all that. He does all this kind of stuff, big picture stuff. He's, the other wizard. He's got all sorts of stuff going on. But he doesn't hate going to the Shire. He's not unhappy to be in the Shire. It's it's a little, it's not all of what he is, but it's an okay place for him. And of course, for the hobbits, he's great. He brings magic. He's got the great fireworks displays. It seems like he makes everything exciting and fun. That's exactly the way we should think about Jupiter and Gemini, right? It's like getting a visit from Gandalf. And of course, in addition to us all getting the advantage of seeing the fireworks and the magic and all of this type of stuff, we also, some hobbits, maybe you, some hobbits get to go on adventures, right? Gandalf sends some hobbits off on adventures, takes some with him, sends others off on adventures. It could be the beginning of an adventure for those of us on a little bit more ordinary level. So let's not think of Jupiter and Gemini in any way as being a bad thing. I think it is going to be a time when we're going to have, if anything, a greater appreciation for the everyday. It's a good time to dial into the everyday and say, like, where is there a little bit of magic? And maybe we find extra magic in the everyday. Okay, that's my assessment and somewhat instructions for thinking about the year of Jupiter in Gemini. And if we look at the way it's going to play out, the first thing that Jupiter does, as with all the planets, right? Jupiter comes into Gemini, and Pluto is sitting right there at 0 degrees of Aquarius, right? Well, I think Pluto will be at 1 degree of Aquarius when Jupiter gets in there. But the first thing Jupiter does is get a trine aspect from Pluto. That's not bad. That's not bad. A trine aspect is pretty nice. So Pluto is sitting right down at the very beginning of Aquarius. So we have all of this energy that comes into, well, AI, yes, but all like the different progressive social things that have come up since Pluto's been hanging around the beginning of Aquarius. Just as an example, labor unions. We hear about labor unions for years. Now Pluto gets into Aquarius, and they're all over the place. So um, we start to get some of that Plutonian energy that is making these big shifts and changes at a really deep, profound level, finding expression in Jupiter in Gemini. So some of that Plutonian energy gets channeled into our everyday lives. I would say, first of all, we would definitely get some news about Pluto and Aquarius issues. I would also think, what's going to be really hot right around the beginning of Pluto, Jupiter in Gemini is going to be investigative reporting, right? Reporting, writing, that's all very Gemini stuff. Jupiter publishing. I'm seeing that there's investigative reporting right as Jupiter gets into Gemini, right in the spring, early summer of 2024, as that energy from Pluto shines in there. A lot of stuff, I think, coming out, a lot of information that maybe was not available becomes available to us with Jupiter into Gemini and getting this aspect from Pluto. That's that's the beginning of this step through. Now, the next thing that happens, the next major event, and there's a lot of things that are happening. That's why you want to watch the weekly forecast and the monthly forecast. You subscribe now, you watch them when they come up, or you don't watch them, but you subscribe. Watch them. The next big event, though, is Jupiter is going to square Saturn. Okay, now Jupiter and Saturn conjoined at 0 degrees of Aquarius, beginning their 20-year cycle of social and political change. They conjoined at the very end of 2020. It was actually on the day of the solstice, the Capricorn solstice back in 2020 at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And for the next several hundred years, their 20-year cycle will be conjoining in air signs. So there's a whole new beginning. And the opening square of their 20-year cycle, right? Now we're looking back now a few years and saying, well, this is what was seeded back then. Again, 0 degrees Aquarius and all of those Aquarian issues. I have a video out on Pluto and Aquarius. You can go watch that and get a little bit more on it. But, yes, labor unions, AI, power to the people, let's call it. Well, that was seeded back in 2020. And now in 2024, actually, the exact dates are, hold on a second over here. I should have this on the top of my head to be much more professional looking. But you know what? That's all right. The exact dates are August 19th, and then in late December of 2024, we're having the square between the two planets. Now, Jupiter's in Gemini and Saturn is in Pisces. These are both dual signs. So we not only get the kind of push-pull between the two signs, two planets that we get when there's a square, but Gemini is a dual sign, the two twins, and Pisces got the two fish. So it sort of like multiplies possibilities. We get many, many different stories coming out. Saturn is in Pisces, and the issue there is largely migration and refugees. This is since Neptune got into Pisces in 2011, this has been a very topical issue, along with the health of the oceans and things like that. But with Saturn in Pisces now, it's a matter of kind of coming to some sort of legislative decision. Like, what are we going to do about things? You know, how are we going to handle this? I have a video on Saturn and Pisces if you want to go look for it. Jupiter is coming up with new, it we really get the discussion. It's really about the discussion. It's really about alternative ways of approaching the issue. That's what we're going to be seeing with Jupiter squaring Saturn. That's the back half of 2024. You could really look at it from August through the end of the year, where we'll be getting this kind of tension between the two. And, you know, can we come up with not a narrative, but a dialogue? Can we come up with a real dialogue? Or I suppose it'll be a quadrilogue because we have dual signs involved, all the different perspectives. Everybody gets to be heard. That's what I'm seeing on this. Everybody gets to be heard on the issue. That's part of what's happening with Jupiter in Gemini. Okay. Now, the third aspect between the two planets, by the way, doesn't happen until Jupiter goes into Cancer and Saturn goes into Aries. That'll be next summer. We'll deal with that when we get there. But that's an interesting end to this sort of many perspectives come up, and then what are we going to decide upon? We'll have to see what we decide upon. One thing that doesn't happen is that Jupiter does not wind up squaring Neptune in Pisces. Neptune will scoot into Aries. Well, Jupiter will scoot into Cancer, and Neptune will get into Aries before they are able to tangle in between Gemini and Pisces. And I'm not going to take up your time with an aspect that's not going to happen, but I think it's very interesting that the planet, I mean, Jupiter is one of the co-rulers of Pisces and Neptune is the other. And here they were about to dialogue about what's happening, you know, again, oceans, migration, refugees, and things like this. And they were about to dialogue about it in these sort of mutable, flexible signs of Pisces and Gemini, but doesn't happen. They do get to talk about it, but by then Jupiter will be in conservative Cancer and Neptune will be in Aries. Very, very different feel. And in fact, the reason why I bring it up is that we're kind of moving over the next year or so. We're moving out of the Taurus, Pisces kind of feel, which are both yin signs, you know, female in the old days, but, you know, feminine signs but, you know, yin signs. And so we're going to have very soon, we're going to have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus is going to be in Gemini. And so in a way, Jupiter's coming into Gemini is sort of heralding this sense of there being a positive, flowing, but yang energy, very active energy. All right, let's talk about the signs. Let's get into, I know you've been waiting for this, but if you've been watching through now and didn't skip ahead on the timestamps, you're the best. But let's talk about each sign. Now, usually I tell you, well, it's more important for your sun sign or it's more important for your rising sign or both. In the case of Jupiter, I say both. I say both. If it's, but not just both, right? What I'm going to give for each sign is valid for the sun sign. It's valid for your rising sign. But Jupiter, more than any other planet, is where he's going and what he's doing. Planets that he's aspecting and the signs that he's in affects not only Sagittarius rising or not only, you know, Sagittarius suns, but wherever you have Sagittarius in your chart, right? So if you have Sagittarius on the second house cusp, it means, you know, it affects your finances, sort of follows Jupiter. Mars and all the planets that are nearer to the sun, the moon, they move too fast to really be great to track this way. Saturn and all the planets that are on the other side, they move too slowly to really track this way. But Jupiter, spending about a year in each sign, is just right when it comes down to it. So I would pay attention to the sun and I would pay attention to the rising sign. Now, because Jupiter is in Gemini, which is opposite his home sign of Sagittarius, two signs are going to be affected, right? The sign that is that Jupiter rules, and then the sign that he's in. So there's an axis between the planets that we're going to have to be looking at as we go through this. And let's start off with Gemini. Why not? You got Jupiter coming into your sign. It's time to get a little bit of good luck on your side. So you don't have to watch the whole thing. You get it right away. Gemini. Basically speaking, this is just good luck. It's just helpful to have Jupiter in your sign. Whatever you're about, this is good. But Jupiter, natural ruler of the seventh house, is suggesting getting folks in that are working with you. This is a kind of partnership type of thing. Now, it could be romantic partnership. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Sometimes a little more temporary than that, but it could be business partnership, it could be friendships, the kind of thing. If you know what, if you're a Gemini and you have clients, it'd be very good for you because you're naturally pulling in the energy of Sagittarius at the same time. So it's your sign as Gemini is getting the boon, but you're also getting it from the opposite sign. So other people come into your life. It's definitely a very good time to look and see who's coming in and, to a certain extent, who's going out of your life. But basically it's your I would call it your cosmic get out of jail free card, but don't get into jail in the first place. But it's generally a very lucky placement for you. So enjoy it, Gemini. Moving backwards to Taurus. Well, you used to have Jupiter in your sign, but you still got Uranus, so that's good. And it's Taurus, so you're having a well enough time with it. It should be very good for finances, having Jupiter come into your house of finances. He may not be thrilled to be in Gemini. He might be dealing with a couple of sources of income, but generally speaking, it's pretty good. The rough road that you've had as Uranus has been rolling through your sign over the last 7 years, disturbing that Taurian quest for stability. Jupiter was helpful the last year, but now, if he helps out in finances, that will be absolutely fine as well. The other side of the story is it should be pretty good in the event that you need to get a loan, take out a mortgage or something along those lines. If you're dealing with eighth house matters like taxes and inheritances and stuff like that, Jupiter should be very helpful to you too as well, Taurus. So that's a kind of positive thing. Aries. Well, this is your third house, Aries. So this is everything I said about Jupiter going into the into Gemini and it being about everyday reality and so on. Certainly plays out most directly for Aries, right? This is a kind of, just good for things that have to do with renovating your daily routine and so on and so forth. On the flip side of the story, though, you also have this ninth house energy coming in, which makes it great for travel, philosophy, learning. Aries, it's a great time for picking up new skills. Actually, for everybody, it's a very good time for picking up new skills. Pisces. This simultaneously rocks your world of house and home and career. Well, it doesn't really rock your world, I suppose. It infuses some energy, mostly into the area of home and family, your comfort zone. That's a positive energy for you, but it also reflects out into the area of career. And it blends the two energies for you. And of course, where you live and where you work are pretty much related to each other, unless you work remotely. I could work from wherever. Um, but the two things are both being energized for you. And with Saturn in your sign throughout the time that Jupiter is in Gemini, you're dealing with some of the heaviness. You're also feeling that energy of Neptune leaving. So it's not necessarily the smoothest time for you. It really is helpful if, at least home and career can get a little bit of a boost from Jupiter, that maybe some of the other things that you've been dealing with would be a little bit more, let's just call it like, it'll smooth things over a little bit to have things going well with career and household and family life and so on. Um, Pisces, you're sort of dealing with a lot of issues, having to deal with yourself and how you're feeling about things and who you are and all this type of thing. It's definitely a little bit more of a kind of extroverted energy as opposed to the more introverted energy of having Saturn and even Neptune in your sign. So that should work well. If you're an Aquarius, you know what's great about this for Aquarius? This is a very creative energy. This is the expression of your creativity. Jupiter is out there and suggesting fun, creativity. It is suggesting connection, doing what you play, following your heart. Aquarius, a lot about principle and about the right thing to do. Jupiter in Gemini is saying, well, the right thing to do might still be fun. So it's a fifth house kind of thing, and it reflects back out into the 11th house, which would be the house that Jupiter rules, and that is very much an Aquarian house. So I'm getting the sense of like you participate in different groups, you participate in the groups of people that really work for you and work with you, and yet you get to be, now don't get upset, Aquarius, but you get to be a little bit of a star as you participate, as you're one of the group, but you're shining a little bit more, and and the reason why you're shining a little bit more is because you're really loving what you do. Capricorn, well, this is a little bit of an odd thing for Capricorn. You might wind up with a little bit more work on your plate than you'd otherwise, love to have. Jupiter does expand things, and it is your house of work. You might be a little bit more focused on your health and well-being as well. But I think that it would be a lot of work. I could just picture, the Capricorns are going to have two jobs, have two jobs because you got Jupiter in Gemini. Um, but it is good for work. It is good for sixth house matters like that. It would be helpful for getting along with coworkers. Maybe invest a little bit in getting along with your coworkers. The flip side energy that is coming at you is the 12th house, and that is a spiritual energy. That is energy that, let's say, comes at you from a place that you don't really understand. And so you get some boons, you get some positive energy out in your house of work and health, and not health like in the sense, but like in the sense of feeling good. You get the and service to others. Capricorn, you can relate to that, right? In service to others, you get this real positive energy, and it's coming to you from the 12th house, which is it's a helpful energy, even if you don't exactly understand it. It's that unexpected boon that comes to you. Well, take it. And then comes Sagittarius. Well, now, Sagittarius, you guys, Sagittarius ascendant especially, but Sagittarius sun as well, you guys get pulled around by Jupiter. When Jupiter's in a place that he's happy, you really feel it, and it's wonderful. And if he's in a place where he's unhappy, you kind of have a little bit of a harder year. If he's got tough aspects going on, you feel that as well. And, so you get pulled around by Jupiter. Jupiter is in your seventh house. That's the house of others. So let's say that the good things and the bad things that come to you this year are probably coming through others. It could be personal partnerships. It could be business partnerships. It could be clients. It could be, opponents. And, an opponent on the pickleball court, or an opponent in a more serious way. Things are coming at you from others, and probably more than one, because we're talking about Gemini. So I think that you're really kind of got a very active year, Sagittarius. This is you, so we don't have to think about two houses. This is you. It's your seventh house. With Jupiter squaring Saturn in the back half of the year, I think, from August through September through December, I would say that might be the period of time that has a little bit more stress associated with it. I would think probably actually the actual aspects in August, let's just say the month of August and the month of December would be the ones that have the real stresses built in, if you're going to be feeling any stresses at all, which may not be all that much, to tell you the truth, given the signs involved, especially because Jupiter is one of the rulers of Pisces, which is where Saturn is squaring from, and blah, blah, blah. But the point is, it should go pretty okay for you. This isn't a bad placement for Jupiter, no matter what anybody tells you. Um, and next year he's going to go into Cancer, which is a great placement for Jupiter. So it may not be everything Sagittarians dream of, but it'll be okay. You should have a pretty good year. And as I said, most of it comes from other people. And if you're looking to do something with others, a collaboration type of time, this is a really good time for you then, Sagittarius. If you're a Scorpio or Scorpio rising, this is eighth house. Well, do we get good stuff in the eighth house? Yeah, you can get good stuff. I mean, if you're going to get inheritance, or if you got an inheritance issue that's been hanging around, this is the time when we'd expect it to loosen up and work for you. Maybe after a bit of a struggle, and maybe not until sometime in early 2025. But how many of you is that really going to be relevant for? Probably not that many. I think for Scorpio, this could be a time when you could kind of go into more difficult areas. Let's say a little bit more difficult areas of life, but you got a light. You're going down into the cave of your own psyche, but you got a light with you. Jupiter, you've got a guide with you. Let's see. Mixed metaphors. If Gandalf was the one who was maybe this would be more like Virgil, right, accompanying Dante. I don't know. Let's not make too much out of that. Gandalf also took the. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. But you get a little bit of a light that way. Um, Financially, Scorpio, I'm not going to say it's a challenge. I'm going to say that you might find that you have to kind of hustle a little bit financially. If you're going to make some money, it might be a little bit more of a hustle, a little bit less of things just sort of flowing towards you. You got to go push it out there a little bit more. That would be my guess for Scorpio and finances. Definitely, it is relevant to your finances, though. Go psychological journeys and financial hustle. There you go. Libra, this energy works very well for you. You get, this is your natural ninth house. So you're pulling in the energy of learning new things, of exploring new ideas, and perhaps learning new skills would be the way I think about that. It's a ninth house, third house thing. It all works really, really well for you, though. I mean, the energies balance really, really nicely. So balance. Now, Libra, you gotta love it. So I think Libra is probably the sign, Libra Sun and Ascendant, don't forget, is probably the sign that's going to take the most from this. The squares to Saturn that are happening in August and December might, sometimes you need a little bit of resistance in order to really go forward. And if you hit roadblocks in August and December, I would just look at them as being, it's the resistance that you need to push forward. Virgo. Well, this is another fourth house, 10th house thing. This is home, the energy of home present in the energy of career. Jupiter is really in your house of career. And that's good. But also too, it's not an easy flow for you. Not that Virgo's looking for easy flows, but I think that um, there's opportunity, and probably multiple opportunities in career. The question is, how do you sort it out? How do you sort it out? And again, August and December are the months where you'll probably be working on that and trying to, or succeeding, and let's not say trying to, let's say succeeding in finding out what the best move for you is. But it's very much a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice for everybody, but it's very much a matter of choice for Virgo to decide what is the thing that is really going to work best for me. Look for August and December as being kind of like pivot times for you. Leo, Good energy for Leo. It's an 11th house energy, great for socializing, great for creativity, right? If you've got a Leo ascendant or your Leo sun, this is your natural Sagittarius, or Jupiter is the natural ruler of your 5th house of creativity, and he's going to be in your 11th house. So what you do is you take your passion, you take the thing that, really makes you excited, the thing that you love to do, and you find a group of people that you can do it with, and you share that energy. You could probably do a lot of other wonderful things with this energy, but I'm giving you that. And by now, if you've been watching every sign, you know that August and December, Leo, is probably the time when you're going to have to make a decision. Is this working or is this not working? And if it doesn't work, it's fine, because it's Gemini. We got multiple possibilities coming up, right? So we don't have to stick to one. Finally, we get to the sign of Cancer. And this is happening now. Jupiter's coming into your 12th house. Jupiter and Gemini in your 12th house it's like the unseen positive energy. It's the unseen positive energy. It relates to the 6th house of work and service, right? And I think that is just something to keep in mind for those of you that have Cancer sun and ascendants. It's service is something to keep in mind, because basically you're getting helpful juju. You're getting helpful juju from unseen sources, and it's not manifest right in front of you. You can make sense of it. It's not the kind of thing that you say like, okay, I get it, I know what this is about. It's good stuff, but it's not really obvious. Again, August and December look like the pivot points for you. You can get offered, the good daemon can offer you something. Are you going to take it? August and December looks to me to be the time when you have to make those kinds of decisions. And you get the idea for everybody that this is the period of time we're looking for, August and December being the only real tense period. We have a lot of other stuff going on this year. We're just talking about Jupiter and Gemini. These are the periods that we're looking at in terms of when you're going to have pivot points for folks on the issues that have been brought up. All right, there's a summary of what is happening for each sign, and we'll unpack it as we go along through the course of the year with the monthly forecast and with the weekly forecast. And I hope to see you then.